Hey y'all, this video is going to be talking about how to discern if something is a spiritual problem versus a natural problem. I think many of us look at things with natural eyes and we think, oh, this problem is this, or there is just no solution, or whatever the case is. But I guarantee you, if you have a problem, there is a solution. And if it's not found in the physical, you get a second opinion, and that second opinion, his name is Jesus Christ, and he will set you free from whatever is afflicting you or someone you love. So let me start off by saying that not every problem is spiritual. Not every problem is spiritual, but most problems are spiritual. Not every problem, but most are. Being on the extreme of either one of those, everything is spiritual or nothing is spiritual, is incorrect. Both of those are incorrect, and you'll suffer unnecessarily. People around you will suffer unnecessarily when you realize the truth of the fact that we are spiritual beings. It's not the part of us that we can see, but it's very much alive, or wants to be made alive, I should say. So just keep that in mind. So point number one, if the issue is cyclical, meaning you're constantly sick, you constantly have financial issues, you constantly have hard time connecting with people, blah, 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 there's a 99% chance that it is spiritual. When I say cyclical problems, I mean something that is reoccurring, but not necessarily like a constant, but just like something that just often comes up. I'm trying to think if I want to give examples or not. Sorry. I don't. Okay, I'll give some quick examples. So, for instance, if you're constantly sick, you might be under a curse, some sort of attack, or whatever the case is. I've heard crazy stuff where some people have shared, like, you know, they've, especially like at my church, they'll share, you know, they had like 7 car accidents in the span of 3 months, and it's like, oh, girl, that's not normal. That's really not normal. I'd be scared for my life if that was the case. So, yeah, that's an attack. What else did I say? Financial. You can be under a curse. You could be under a generational curse. What else? Oh, the thing about rejection I said, like, having difficulty with people. One possible spiritual explanation, though it can be more than one thing, is that you are, well, they're all curses and afflictions, but you could have a spirit of rejection following you around. Some of y'all have that going on, you don't even realize. And with that, it's very much like it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. You have the spirit following you around, putting what's called a spiritual scent on you, and you think you don't know anything about it, and people are receiving that. It's not that, you know, your breath stank or anything like that. It's just there's a vibe, or not a vibe, an aura that you, not even an aura, an aroma, that's the word I was looking for, an aroma that you're giving off on a spiritual level that you're unaware of. Some people, those stories are so sad, because it's like, normally the person is a good, kind person, and it's just like, just no relationships, like, regardless of what they are, work out. You know, people just don't want to be around them. It's really, really sad. Most likely that's not your affliction, but it is a tactic that the enemy can use. Okay, another example is that you are bound. When I say you're bound, I mean something that is more prevalent, something that's like an everyday way of thought, or a state of being that you interact with, like, basically daily. When the Lord put this word on my spirit, the Holy Spirit told me, if a problem keeps you bound, or has you bound, or something like that, it's spiritual. And I'm like, oop, heard that. So yes, if it keeps you bound, if it makes you Like, for instance, mental health. I've talked about this before. Suicidal thoughts, poverty mindset, anything like that. Offended mindset. Something like that, where you literally cannot see beyond this being the reality, solution, outcome, blah, 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 bound. If it's bound, if it keeps you in chains, spiritual, because that's not how we're made. That is like a direct offense against God. When something is, how do I say it? When you are in bondage of some sort, because he can't operate in your life. If we think about, what's that verse? There's one that says, he who what is it? Who the Son sets free is free indeed. And there's another one, I think. Even that verse that says, for God does not give us the spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of sound mind. It's not our portion to be bound. And if we are, it seriously hinders the work of the Lord in our life until we can realize that and call it out. And ultimately, sin binds you. That's what keeps you, that action of sin keeps you in that place, whatever that looks like. So if you're bound in some area, you have depression, literally, like, you know, there's a mindset of everyone is always out to get you, you know, like, and I mean that more, I'm talking more like on the level of like, being like overly offended, but like, obviously, if you also think that everyone is physically out to get you, that's, I would seek help if that, I would seek both spiritual and, maybe some counseling with that one, but, you know, I'll talk about the help aspect later on. But yes, if you're bound, you're dealing with the spirit. Okay, family afflictions. So this is a concept that you probably heard of called generational curse or bloodline curse, where you, it's something that's been passed down, because one of the tactics of the enemy is to target your bloodline, target your family, and attack you on that level. So if there is a reoccurring problem that you know you saw your great grandmama dealing with it, your grandmama dealing with it, your mama, you dealing with it, maybe even your kids, that's a problem. That often comes in the form of finances, but it can also come in the form of addiction or certain character traits or something like that, like, you know, very intense anger or something. So in that example, that's also a tactic of the enemy. So be careful of that, or look out for that, I should say. If a problem seems to have like no solution, like you've tried pretty much everything, what it's called in the medical field is to get a second opinion after, you know, you either don't agree or you've tried everything and it's not working. You get a second opinion from either a different doctor or a higher, you know, a specialist or something like that. Well, it should be handled the same way spiritually, honestly. If you've, I can't think of anything off the top of my head, but if you, for instance, like alcoholism, for instance, you know, you've tried everything, you've genuinely tried, you've gone to the, what is it called? The retreats or whatever. You've genuinely tried, but you just can't break it. Remember what I said earlier, if it keeps you bound, there's a spirit involved with it. if you tried everything, you know, you've had support, you've gone to support groups, you've gone to AA, you've gone to all this stuff, and it's just not working. It's been years, and you know, deep down, you want to quit. You know, people might kind of gaslight you and say, you don't really want to quit and stuff. People are so, oh, anyways, they want to project their hopelessness onto you. A lot of people do that. A lot of people do that. It's really, really sad and really toxic, to be honest. But that's another story. Anyways, yeah, if it seems to have no solution, know that it's probably, or is actually, if there seems to be no like physical solution to it, it's definitely spiritual. Okay. That is the least, I should say, that point is probably, it's going to sound kind of weird, but probably the worst to make, because that implies that you've spent a lot of time, a lot of energy, a lot of resources, a lot of money maybe in trying to find the right answer. And like, you know, like, I don't want that for you. The whole point of this video is so that you don't do that, you know, and you can assess your situation, your life, someone you love and knows life, whatever. And then my last point is, when we're specifically talking about health problems, if something occurs very randomly, some sort of like weird physical affliction that, you know, there's no real origin of it, it doesn't really fit, it doesn't really like, how do I say, like, it just kind of comes out of nowhere, you know, for instance, like, totally like fake example, but like if some like young person were to like randomly develop arthritis, and it's not like they're like super active, maybe they're moderately active or something like that, that would be like really kind of suspicious. I'm not going to say it's 100% spiritual, but that is something like that doesn't really happen normally, you know. Arthritis typically is found in older people, and it's typically you know, for people who work out a lot or are very active. So if you have something that just randomly comes up, there's a good chance it could be spiritual. Now, again, I am not saying that just because it randomly shows up, oh, it's a demon or something like that. I'm not saying that at all. Please don't take that to mean that. But there is a good chance that it can be. And then going a little bit further into that, especially if you're experiencing something and it can't be verified medically, but you know you're like experiencing this pain. If that's your case, you need to honestly seek help. I've heard so many stories of people, not only just from a spiritual perspective, but even just women, for whatever reason, who just constantly get disregarded for their symptoms or whatever. It's like insane to me, but this goes back way back history. Back in history. It goes way back. Yeah, unfortunately it's not anything new, but women being kind of disregarded for whatever they're feeling medically, you know. And there's a term, I can't remember the name of it, but it's something psycho something, and it's basically like psycho affliction or something like that, basically to say that like what you're experiencing is in your head. I'm not going to say that doesn't exist. I don't know all the understanding. I don't know the background of that, but I'm more inclined to believe that what someone's experiencing is something spiritual rather than them just making it up. Unless they are like a, what is it called? A hypochondriac or something like that. Like, I don't know. Especially if you know, like you can go into detail. This is what I feel. This is around the times that I feel it. It creates this very specific feeling, blah, blah, blah. Like, it's crazy the stuff that people have gone through physically, but I should say gone through physically, but there was no way to like verify it. and then they go and get healing and deliverance, and then they're set free and they never have this issue again. And I've also talked about how mental health really falls into that category. And it goes back to my whole, if something has you bound point, depression, suicide, OCD, schizophrenia, even to a degree, all these things, while I'll never say that it's 100% always spiritual, just like I said at the beginning of this video, there is also that potential, and that shouldn't be discounted. Now, here's the solution for all of this. Jesus Christ. He's the solution. He is the cure for all of this. Ooh, even if it's not spiritual, that's how good he is. Even if it's not spiritual, you can seek him and seek deliverance. And he wants to give it. Like, I know that there's some people who have prayed and prayed and prayed for their issue to change or whatever. And there's a few different things I can say about that, but I gotta end this video. But Jesus is the answer. That means, seeking him will be your solution. Now, if you should just seek him directly, that's the best way. But you can also seek him through a deliverance or healing ministry, a trusted one, ask the Lord where to go on that, because not everybody is who they say that they are. Yeah, seek deliverance and healing from one of those ministries. If you know a trusted person of God who walks in power and has had results in praying for people and having answers and all this stuff, seek them out. There is should I talk about that? There is a power that some people walk in that others don't. And unfortunately, this can be changed, absolutely. Some of it is based on our spiritual ranking, if that makes sense. But you can always go up. But what I'm trying to say is that if you know someone who walks with that power, that is where your answer is. Don't be afraid to, or potentially, if that's the way that, the Lord wants to deliver freedom to you. Don't be ashamed. Don't turn it into something like, that person's they think they're above me or something like that. I just had to show that because some people look at it that way, and it's just like, oh my gosh, imagine going to someone and wanting help and needing help, and then you just I don't know, have an attitude about it. It's wild. But yeah, you can seek Jesus first and foremost, seek a deliverance and healing ministry, seek a trusted person of God. Maybe they can't actually lay hands on you and heal you, but they can hopefully point you in the right direction or pray for you and whatever. Any other solutions? Oh, thank you, Holy Spirit. Fasting. Fasting can be a solution. I'm thinking of the verse. I want to say it's in Matthew, but I can't with 100% certainty. But the disciples are going out, casting out demons, and they run into the sons of Sceva. They run into one that they can't, and it's challenging them, and it's looking like, oh, this is gonna get violent. And I think it's that one. Or is it the one with the boy? I can't remember, but it's some demonic encounter, and Jesus said this one, something about you have to pray and fast or something like that. I'm sorry, I should have had the scripture. I didn't know I was going here. But yeah, this one is only driven out by prayer and fasting. So fasting is one of those that can do it for you. And rebuking as well. There is such thing as self-deliverance, and most of us, you know, maybe we're too far from a healing ministry or whatever the case is. Although you can also access one online, but there's no distance in the spirit as far as like God's healing. Don't think you have to physically be there. There's a grace that you can obtain by physically being there, but don't think that it's like, you know, just, oh, well, I'm on the other side of the world, so God can't reach me. It's not like that. Yeah, what was I saying? Self-deliverance is very much a thing. Rebuking the enemy. If you know what the enemy is, but you have to know what the enemy is. You know, you have to even know that there is an enemy. I'll just end it on this. A lot of people say that like Christians face the most like attacks or something like that, and maybe we do, like spiritual attacks or whatever, but I'm of the firm belief that a lot of people in the world also face terrible spiritual attacks. They just don't have the vocabulary to understand what's going on, you know. And they see it as, this is just how life is for me, or whatever the case is. But yeah, I mean, if you think about even children being possessed and being afflicted early on, it's like, oh my gosh, like, you know, the devil knows no shame. So yeah, this very much applies to anyone who believes that this is for them. Okay, bye.